Afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Okay, we will get started. I will call to order the YCOM Executive Board Meeting for September the 10th. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Present in the room 32 is myself and Director Sowers, and then we have online members David Vandewalle and Commissioner Berschauer. We're missing a couple of folks, so I'll let you know if they happen to join in after we get going. Pretty short agenda, but I did not want to hold up some of the action items for the director for another month. And we will get to those. The first item that I have on the agenda was the discussion of the city representative to fill the vacancy from Rochelle Roden's departure from the city of Dayton and from the board. I do have a copy of the 190 here just for reference, but I know that we previously discussed that we had a couple of folks who expressed interest in joining, and those were City Manager Brandon Dross from the City of Lafayette and City Manager Heidi Bell from the City of Sheridan. The 190 itself specifically directs how the city representative will be selected. And it's essentially the cities themselves that are represented or parties to the agreement are the ones that would appoint their representative for that position on the board. And just given the term that is outlined in the 190, we would be, I guess, looking for a recommendation or a nomination from the cities for a representative to fill the vacancy through January 10 of 2026, which is the term that's outlined in the 190 for the city representatives. So the city of McMinnville has their own representative and is separate from this city representative position. But just wanted to know if there was any other names that had been thrown out or discussed, or any of the other members had any feedback before I essentially send a notice out to the member cities asking them to provide me with their nomination or their representative that they want on the board.
Sheriff, have we confirmed that they're still interested?
I have confirmed that both Brandon and Heidi are interested. And I will include that information when I reach out to all of the cities that are party. I actually did reach out to the new city manager in Yamhill, just since she was fairly new and was not somebody that was really considered or discussed in the first round of conversations. And she was more than content that Chief Graven is already a representative. And so she did not have any specific interest in being considered by the cities.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. David, any other names or consideration?
I did speak with the city manager in Carlton, but it seems like when I talked to her, she was rather busy with some other projects because they were trying to get their new city hall online. So she might be interested, but I honestly haven't had that discussion with her since the city hall opened up.
Well, I guess what I would propose, and I'd just be looking for Commissioner Berschauer and David to give me consensus that I will draft a letter to send to the mayors and the city managers of all of the cities that are party to the 190, with the exception of McMinnville, because they have their own designated representative, and give them a timeline to have a name back to us before our next meeting. So probably give them 30 days to see if they can come to an agreement amongst themselves whenever they have a meeting to tell us who they would like to be the city's representative on the YCOM board.
That sounds fair to me.
Same.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to the next item, which is the director's report. And Patty, it's all you.
Okay, first I'll start with there is attached to the agenda, there was an equipment surplus list on page 2. It's rather long. The majority, I can answer any questions that you may have. In generality, the servers that are listed on here are very expensive to support. They are no longer useful to the performance levels for any practical use in the center, and they are outdated technology. The PCs that are on there, they're at least 5 years old. None of them will support Windows 11. There's one of them, the very top, Patty's desktop. That one is 10 years old and the motherboard actually failed on that PC. And then the switches that are on the list, they're all older technology. 2 were from our radio connection, 2 from our Crossroads connection, and 2 supported our own old phone system. They are also not practical for any type of production work any longer. They pose security risks because they're unable to be updated, the firmware anymore. Other than that, you'll find 7 different monitors that are on the list. All of those either belong to our old Zetron consoles or our old telephone monitors, none of which has a stand any longer, and they're not suitable for production, in that each one of these hardware items ran 24/7 in the center for at least 6 years. So they would be imprinted with the software that they were actually running. So as far as this list, we've brought a surplus before. We do intend to destroy all of the hard drives for any of the equipment and literally just recycle all of this. I asked about resale value and they said at most the monitors $5. So we intend to recycle them and get them out of the equipment room. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Sure.
When you go to designate something as surplus, is there a consideration of the residual value, or is there a dollar threshold, or is it strictly based off of age and security risk and usefulness?
So we do age and security risk and usefulness in our production environment. And then once declared surplus, and this is what I learned from the prior chair, once declared surplus, then does it have any kind of value to someone else? So a couple years ago, we took 2 old servers, and we had 5 PCs, and we actually donated those to a local school district who then put them into production for their use. They were going to use them in a class and rebuild them, and they actually put a couple of them to use in their library. So for them, they were, and that's why I asked this question here. As far as life outside of YCOM, both Scott and Tim don't recommend these carrying on a second life because of the condition that they're in or the security risk that they would pose to the next user.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion from the other members about the surplus list?
Out here.
And would this be something that needs a motion, or can we just have a consensus? Okay, so just a consensus. It sounds like David, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds fine with it being declared surplus.
Yes, sir.
And Commissioner,
Yes.
and I'm in agreement as well. Oh, and it looks like Adam Garvin is on now. I don't want to miss out. I'm not sure how much of that he may have heard.
I heard it. I just couldn't figure out how to join as a panelist. So, yeah, no, I'm good with it. It all makes sense. So thanks for the update, Patty.
Thank you.
All right, and your other director update items.
The final thing that I would say about the surplus is that there will be a small amount of cost as we do bring in a company. We usually coordinate with the city of McMinnville IT so that they actually physically smash those drives so that we don't have any critical infrastructure out there somewhere. So they will do that and then provide us with the the data on each of the serial numbers that they did destroy. So there will be a little bit of cost. Okay, moving forward on to general director's updates. I want to let you know that we are moving ahead again on the Confederated Tribes Fire Station alerting. So that is through a company called USDD, and they are nearing the end of a brand new fire station build out there on McPherson Road. Actually, it's attached to their prior one. They have put in through this company strobe lights throughout the building, in individual sleeping quarters, strobe lights, as well as data, like a ticker bar, as well as audio cues throughout the sleeping quarters, their gym, their equipment bay, and all of these are intended to be connected back to CAD so that CAD can display call data down to the individual unit who's responding. So if 3 of us are all in quarters sleeping at 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm the only one who needs to go, my room will be alerted and the other 2 rooms would be silent. This is advanced technology. It's common technology in the fire service today. And as far as YCOM's part, the tribe came to us and emergency services came to us and said, we would like this as part of our brand new station and we're willing to pay for the interfacing. Will you partner with us? So I wanted to make sure that the board understands that I don't anticipate any type of monetary input by YCOM other than staff time. And of course, it's taking quite a bit of my time, Steve's time, and then Scott and Tim's as we prepare to interface with them. We have chosen a model jointly that it would, instead of physical servers, YCOM will, I like to say this term, spin up. Our virtual network has the capacity that we will host 2 virtual servers for them for redundancy, and then they will VPN connect back to their station. So that's how we're handling the connectivity. The CAD interface was just over $13,000. I negotiated the terms of payment on their behalf with Central Square, as well as the payment milestones. Central Square would prefer for anything of that amount, which is small to them, to be paid 100% upfront. And we held steady and have forced them, I guess, or won at the end of the day. They'll pay 50% of services up front and 50 when we sign, 50% of services when the project closes, which is important because it should only be a 60-day project. So that's where we're at. The tribe, or I should say Chief Warden, Chief Crow is handling the project on his behalf. He's bringing on his IT, and now it's going to be to get our IT heads together and make the connectivity happen. For the board, I want to let you know that the public is invited. We have been personally invited by Chief Warden to attend their station grand opening. It is on Wednesday, October 2nd at 4 p.m. And they are hopeful that they will have the CAD portion of this up and running by then. We are sure going to give it a go together. Just their alerting will work. What we're looking for is the CAD interface to actually be in and the data feed. So above the equipment bay, they'll literally will scroll the address of the call that they have. So it's a higher level. Are there any questions on that? The only other thing I would add is that their project is 2 parts. They are also interested in a radio piece. And we've spoken about this being a phased approach and approaching the radio piece, which is an automated dispatch voice for all calls when the dispatcher hits dispatched status on a unit. And they are very much interested in doing that as well as extending that to the rest of the fire service. This would be a very large change for us operationally as well as technology, and it would connect our CAD system to our radio system, which we have not done that before. So we're going to get the CAD piece and the data piece and their strobe lights taken care of first, and then we'll move forward with what will the rest take. Okay, moving on, Labor Day weekend, YCOM was a stakeholder and offered additional services to the city of McMinnville, to McMinnville Fire District, as well as the citizens for the International Air Show that was in McMinnville. Over and above, we've talked about our overtime liabilities, and over above our normal staffing, or what we would, I should say, my ask of Steve was what we would normally up staff on a Labor Day. We had 56 hours of additional overtime, including some overtime that was on Labor Day, which would be a double time and a half. This is not including my hours. I work throughout the weekend as well with them, as I should. Steve wanted me to make sure and let you know that all of our staff did an excellent job rising to the challenge. Labor Day weekend is usually very busy in the center. I don't have numbers of calls in difference. I can tell you that Friday, the air show opted for an entire live rehearsal that lasted 3 to 4 hours. And YCOM was so busy, we had not added one additional. We had 3 consoles up and working, actually 4. I went out and took the vacated console and was heard on a radio from time to time through that. And it's good for morale. It's good for me for certifications and assisting, but they very much needed the help that I did provide during that time. We did get reasonable assurance from the air show coordinators that they're not interested in repeating on a Labor Day in the future, and that they had let the military know that. And that's because their numbers were down. It competes with a lot of other things. We're happy to hear them say that. And they do have tentative dates for the next 2 years. One's in August and one is in September. And at the moment, I'm not sure which one is which. That's any questions on the air show? Okay, I continue to meet bi-weekly, as well as Scott Kirkland, with our law enforcement RMS replacement project partners. So we've been through the statement of work. We're getting ready into contract negotiations as far as matching the contract up to the quote. YCOM does have a piece. We've talked about common identity management before. Here, that is a piece that we were unable to implement with our new CAD system in 2018. It allows a customer of Central Square to log into every one of their licensed products by using their own agency's credentialing. It's called a single sign-on. It will be fantastic for the users of our product suite here, because a Yamhill County deputy can log in with his Active Directory login. He doesn't have to log into his mobile with that, or log into the computer, then log into the application with something that YCOM would require. So each entity that is involved in the licensing of products can have their people log into their own rules. And we are excited for that. And I will let you know, Scott and I had anticipated there's going to be a price tag for YCOM with common identity management on the CAD side. So we did find a hole in the quote for the group, and what they quoted for common identity management was only for RMS. So I don't have that number yet. We did anticipate it. I do believe that my budget is sufficient for, and we forwent a couple other technology projects for this year, thinking that this was probably going to rear its head, and it has. So I will be back to you on what the costs of that will be, and we will continue moving forward. Are there any questions with that? Okay, as far as staffing, if you remember, we hired 2 at the end of March and 1 on April 1st. Our trainee who was hired on April 1st did resign the last week of August. She had been through considerable amount of medical issues prior to her hire at YCOM. We had a conversation, and I offered at the time to delay hire her by 1 quarter after she had passed all that she needed to for pre-employment testing. And she opted to go ahead and join us in April, knowing that this could be the end result. And we just had to go with what she felt was best for her. We did have the opening and she opted to start April 1, and it has been insurmountable for her. So she feels like a better day and time. Personally, she would still be here. So I supported her decision, and I understand the struggles that she was having, specifically with short-term memory, which in this profession is not something that I can accommodate out. It is an essential job function. So with that, I do have the two that started at the end of March are still in training. They've just begun their end of phase, and I would expect to be hearing that they're ready for shadow phase sometime by the end of October. This is very, very advanced in timing from what we have been in our past history. Our other than our last two, I came back to you and said we had revamped our entire training program. Of our last two that were signed off, one was 6 months and one was 7. This places them about 7 months. So I think that we are on to something here. We're hiring great quality candidates, and so far they're rising to every challenge that we're giving to them. So some relief is coming towards the end of the year for our staff, as well as we have a current hiring process going on. And so we have 4 candidates who have advanced all the way to interviews. So we'll be having interviews next week. And I do expect just to continue this process and with as many trainees as we can sustain until we're up to a comparable staffing where we need to be. So are there any questions there? Okay. We did have August 20th, so right on the verge of the school year, we were approached by a company called Safer Watch. They sell school notification systems. So we've talked about Alyssa's laws here. Alyssa's law is not, well, I'll just say they are in the market of mobile panic applications for every school employee on a campus. It is an application that you download on your smartphone, and your smartphone becomes a way to connect to emergency services. One would say you can connect to emergency services today with a smartphone, and this provides, they intend, for school districts within my dispatch jurisdiction. They intend to bring up software that they will have 4 buttons. I open the application and I have 4 buttons in front of me. One says police, one says fire, one says medical, they're pictures actually, and one is an active assailant. And if I'm a school employee, they are geo-based or GIS, what do I want to say, based, my smartphone application knows that I'm on the campus and lights those buttons up and makes those available for me. I can press a button, and in the background, they're intended to make an automated voice call to 911, to make a voice call to 911 that opens up and I can talk, make a text call to 911. But more importantly, because those phones can do that today, the driving force for these is that it also alerts every other employee on campus who has the same application that I've done so. So that's the missing piece for school districts today. If I call someone for an ambulance to come to the campus, I want everybody else on campus to know that an ambulance is going to arrive. Unbeknownst to McMinnville School District, who they were partnering with at the time, the vendor, as they generally do, say, yes, 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 it's simple. It's a simple interface with the 911 center. They thought we were ready to go. And apparently they acquired this last spring, and they were wanting to implement it with the beginning first day of school, and we knew nothing about it. So we're back, we're all on the same page now. I am currently working with McMinnville School District, who is the first and closest to implement with Safer Watch, following Sheriff our Amity, Dayton, and Sheridan school districts. And I did find out that the sheriff office also had not been brought into these conversations. So for your elementary school in Lafayette, and for each of these school districts, But now we've got Safer Watch. They're going, okay, let's implement with McMinnville School District. And I apologize, I can't remember if it's 12 or 15 campuses, so it's the largest one. We'll implement with them, and once we get an order of operations together, then McMinnville and I will partner to bring on the other 3 districts. So they're just now, they've signed, they're not ready and waiting. I would like the board to know that our message is still, if it's safe to place a voice call to 911, do that, because I can ask you a question and you can answer immediately. I would like the board also to know that vendors such as SafeWatch, they came in and they said, and here, you can go to this website and have the dispatcher log in and they can see everything that's happening. And I really applaud the school district and I applaud the McMinnville Police Department for joining me in this. How are we going to accomplish this together where it has value and makes sense? And they understood that I have a need to input information into a computer that all of public safety sees. And if I'm doing that in a third-party application, so all the school's teacher sees, that's delaying me getting you the help and you the update. So I think we've came up with a great configuration. The dispatchers will not log into the third-party application. The school will. They have committed to training expectations. So for example, all of the eyes got large in the room when I said the active assailant button, it has a gun for a reason. It's an active shooter button, and you will get an active shooter response from law enforcement. If you have 2 16-year-olds who are punching each other, that is not an active assailant response. And so we talked about the different type of responses and what they recall. Also on the medical, I've made a request to them that it only does a voice call. There is no reason for them to send me a message and then everything is an unknown medical call, and that we can provide that aid instructions. And also it aids the fire districts in what type of lights and sirens response or how many pieces of equipment or kind of the preparation ahead of time. So that is what we're doing. The good thing for us is that there is an interface through our Rapid SOS product. And I'll just leave it at, that's something that we already are used to. It's incorporated in our equipment. We're already used to seeing things come in. And so that's what we're pursuing as far as an interface. I could talk about this for a couple hours. I'm happy to share anything more with you or come back and give a presentation if you'd like to at some point, but I just want to let you know that that is something that we are working on, and I would take any questions that you might have now. I know this is just a piece of the coin that I've given to you. Okay, we're going to keep moving on.
Patty,
Yes.
real quick, is this something that the school district is telling parents about, or is this just an internal function for them?
I don't know what their messaging is going to be. They have not told their employees. They might have as of the last week, but we actually did a test on the side, and one of the McMinnville captains asked a school district principal in Dayton, and she didn't know about it yet, that their district had acquired it. So the thing about it is that I don't even know what to say. It makes sense for everybody on that campus to be aware, but it opens up the scenario and certainly an opportunity for training that just because you're aware doesn't mean you need to call me and make sure I'm aware too. They need to understand that it's an add-on to the notifications already being done, if that makes any sense. So I don't know what their messaging will be to students, as well as community, as well as parents. Okay.
I'm just wondering how that would maybe play in a positive way when it comes to these swatting calls. Because obviously, if you're getting a call into the front office and none of these internal alerts are going off, that might sort of be an additional backup to signal that it might be a swatting call.
Yes.
Type of thing.
And I have spoken with Brian Crane about, I am glad to come out and be part of those conversations or part of those trainings. And, and as we go, then on to Amity and Dayton and Sheridan and explain what we have in place and how, because it is very important for all parties to understand the expectations of use and the expectations of, if I do this, what is the response? And so I am hopeful. It does seem like we're all on the same page now. And McMinnville did say, when I said, okay, the school year has started, when do you want to implement? And they said, as soon as appropriate. So, and I appreciate that. So
Thank you.
they've also went back to the vendor and suggested that the vendor do their order of operations a little differently too. So, and now we have a heads up that it's possible, that there's other communities in our county who could come on, and we want to make sure that they're folded into what's already being done and not trying to reinvent for their district. Thank you. I just have
I need to build on that. Is the fire district or fire districts looped in when Amity gets online? This is the first I'm hearing about it, and I don't think anything's been mentioned to the Mac Fire District that I'm aware of.
Yes, so we have had 2 meetings, just one with the vendor where they explained what they were going to install in our center. And then the school district and I and our ITs have met independently. So they've said, hold off, we have more work to do. They don't have everything ready to go in their district. The next steps will be exactly that. So, and I should say the police department did, because they had to finish up all their contracts for school resource officers. So that's why McMinnville Police was aware of it. Next will be, let's talk about the medical components, and let's talk about each of those buttons and what the scenarios are and what they're going to train. So fire district certainly is not late to the game. I would say the vendor was late to the game with everybody, and now they're on a good track.
Okay, thank you.
I might just suggest that when McMinnville gets ready to do that initial training with staff, that if possible, we try to invite representatives from Dayton and Amity and Sheridan, just so that they get some insight early on as they start looking to deploy this in the other communities, so that it's consistent amongst all the districts in how they're training and what the expectation is. And especially for like us, because we went to Mac High School last week, but we would go to Dayton or Amity or wherever else. I don't want to have 2 different methods of utilization of the product that we have to try to keep straight depending on which city we're going to.
Exactly. And that's I see a good coming out of this if they are all on the same type of training and response and application. That is going to be helpful for, we don't have 8 different communities, 10 different communities with how many different campuses with a different response, even a response plan for each campus. So we talked a lot about muscle memory and a lot about public safety activities and what public safety does depending on the type of call. And they seem very amenable to folding into that, as opposed to, here's our list of 1 through 5 things that we have trained our teachers that you're going to do. And we say that's not what we're going to do here. So.
Do they also market to private? So is this something that we could see at the steel mill or at ADEC or one of the other large employers in the county, or is it strictly focused on schools and public entities?
I would say that the technology certainly would have the private application into business. I think right now they focus on school systems because all across the nation, departments of education are offering dollars up for these systems to get them installed. So, and that's why I stopped short of Alyssa's law. The Department of Education is offering up that money to pay for these systems in Oregon. And then there was a fiscal line item that said in up to $300,000 for interfacing into a PSAP. Well, this company provides the interfacing complimentary because they want the business from all the campuses. That's where the money is. So I would not be surprised. There certainly are silent applications for business alarms today. And that's next up with Rapid SOS and A&E notifying us silently that there's an alarm at a bank instead of placing a voice call to us. So I will make sure that I continue some updates on that and we kind of traverse this together. I have just 2 more updates for you as far as the integrated text to 911. It's been silent on YCOM's end for a while, and Oregon Department of Emergency Management has been having series of calls with all of the players that are going to make integrated 911 or text to 911 happen at YCOM. Intrado, Lumen, Motorola, Day Wireless, they are all getting organized, as well as mapping out this project that has never happened before and has never taken someone who doesn't have any third-party application and now integrated into our phone system. OEM checked in with me a couple of days ago and said that they do believe they've got everybody at the table. They are asking me if what availability I have for the month of October for them to do a bunch of remote and on-site work at YCOM, getting our customer premise equipment, which is our phone system, prepared and ready and configured to accept the text. They have been upfront with me and told me they cannot collectively come to an agreement on how long the project is going to take, and that once we start, it's going to take a lot of our time. So that our users could see some trickle down effect of availability from my team. But once we do start, we need to just get it implemented and then move forward. So I will meet, I'm going to Oregon APCONINA the 3rd week of September, and I will meet with OEM at that time. And hopefully by then they'll have some sort of schedule that everybody can agree upon. But that's where we're at for integrated text to 911. And again, as far as our organization, this is it's a lot of staff time, and our costs are in staff time, but this is provided by the 35% of the 911 tax. So there will be no costs monetarily to YCOM other than staff hours. Are there any questions there? And then I saved the very best news for last, and that's that it's been a long time, but a long time ago, I briefed that OEM was updating the GIS policy for reimbursements. And as we came through last year, that 333 line or 333 line in OEM 911 reimbursement line was very lean this past year from what I had budgeted for it while we waited for the GIS policy to undergo all of its revisions. And then finally, for several months, we have not been able to request a reimbursement for GIS work that Tim has been continuing to do, because we did not have an updated letter of agreement between YCOM and Newburgh as far as what the dollars eligibility were, how they were going to be dispersed. So I do have a letter of agreement that was signed by myself and Lori from Newburgh. Of the 18,000 that is eligible per quarter for Yamhill County PSAPs, 13,500 per quarter is eligible earmarked for YCOM, and 4,500 is eligible and earmarked for the Newburgh 911 Center. The Newburgh Center has not requested a refund or a disbursement for many years. And there was conversation between the 911 program and them. I stayed out of it, letting them know that they were leaving dollars on the table, and would they commit all of those dollars to us. They have found a use and a reason and a source for utilizing these dollars, and both of us are receiving more than what we did. So ours was over 10,000 before. The difference is that, and so YCOM also was retroactively approved to which that's a great partnership with OEM. So I received approval to retroactively go back and request reimbursements to Q2 of 2023, which is where we left off. And they approved me. Anyway, this is a direct reimbursement model. So it is 1-for-1 for the wages of Tim Vandewally. So I just wanted to, when I talked about impacts of staff time, there is a monetary, I guess, in that it's of funds that we don't realize because he wasn't doing GIS work at the time, or some of his other duties that we could reclaim the costs of his wages. This would be one of those places when we pull him off to additional projects, which we know will happen, but I would like to tip it back a little bit more. So as we went through and worked through, the first quarter, our reimbursement will be just under 7,000. The Q3, I should say Q2, Q3 of 2023, it's just under 9,000. Q4 of 2023, it's just under 10,000. Q1 of 2024, it came to $8,300. So the reimbursement request that I have out to OEM is for $34,000, $34,048.59. So that's pretty exciting to see this at this time in the budget year. We will see, of course, we're going to go over in that revenue line as we were well under last year. So from here on out, we will submit his work. We will upload all of his data as we have been. And then the month following the close of the quarter, we can ask for reimbursement. So to actually receive the check, I could be 1 to 2 months out, but we did get the approval to submit, and I have no doubt that there will be zero problems with our accounting as well as his data. So that is really exciting to know that we can continue to have those. I would just caution you, the variable now is instead of I could budget, you know, it was $10,890, I believe, every quarter. So it came to 43,000. Now it's a moving target for up to 13,500, depending on how much work he does within the quarter. So, but it's still, regardless, it's exciting. And I did want to save the increased revenue and, or I should say reclaimed revenue stream for last today. Are there any questions for me? That's all I have for you today.
No questions from me. Just giving anybody online a chance to raise a hand or chime in. All right. I think that's it.
That is it. Thank you so much.
The last item was the discussion about our next meeting. For those of you that joined before we turned on the microphones, we were having a discussion about the efficient use of all of our time and the need to have meetings on a monthly versus a semi-monthly basis. So my recommendation or preference would be to move to a meeting every other month. I know that this particular day and time of Tuesdays at 2 is a conflict for the commissioner. And so since I have most everybody on here, I just wanted to see if there were any absolute no-go times to consider if we're going to look at rescheduling of these meetings, or something that is readily apparent as a preferred time to have these meetings as far as a day or a time of day. Tuesdays mornings are not good for anybody with the county.
I would just suggest it, you know, in this initial round, maybe we push it back to 3. I don't know if that works, but I could do 3 o'clock.
Adam, does that work for you?
That works for me. I mean, I'm kind of agnostic on chiming in on this because I won't be in the seat after January or after December. So I would hate for my weight to carry much decision making in this process as far as future meeting times.
Okay.
Unless you want to create a seat for the McMinnville Fire District, I'd be happy to stay on the board.
David?
Yeah, 3 o'clock would work for me as well.
Okay. Well, we will move the meetings to 3. And unless there's something that comes up that's pressing that the director needs feedback from the board or something that is more urgent, I think we will move to an every other month. And that would put us into November for our next meeting. So we will, I guess I'll look,
12th.
see if I can screw up the calendar. Tuesday, November 12th at 3 p.m. will be our next meeting. And that's all I've got. Anything else? Going once?
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you all. We will adjourn. It's 2:46.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.